excited about this topic. We're really excited about this topic, personal branding and professional communications. The main career catalyst staff hear from employers all of the time that these are skills that they really value and look for in the future workforce. Really being confident in your professional communications, understanding who you are as a professional, and navigating your professional identity are things that employers are looking for all the time. Skills that are helpful to flex and are very translatable across all areas of your personal and professional life. So we're going to hand it over to David, Hope, and Bismarck that are going to lead a conversation about this topic for the next hour or so. As you have questions or thoughts as related to the conversation, we encourage you to put that in the Q&A function throughout the course of the webinar, and our speakers will address those as they come up. So don't feel like you need to wait until the last 10 minutes. If you have a question or an idea, if one of the speakers say something that is interesting to you or relevant to a question that you have, feel free to put it into the Q&A at any point throughout the conversation, and we'll make time and space to work our way through that as the hour progresses. So without further ado, I'm going to hand it over to David, Bismarck, and Hope, and we're looking forward to a great conversation.
Thanks so much, Hannah, and Henry, for getting this started. Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining us. Again, I'm really excited about talking about personal brand. It's something I do a lot with college students throughout Maine and New Hampshire. So I'm really glad that we can talk about it today. As Hannah said, this really is a conversation. And I didn't want to just talk to you, and that's why I invited Bismarck and Hope to join me, because I think it's just much more interesting when you're hearing from, again, peers. They are current interns with us, and I think it's just going to be a lot more helpful just to keep having conversation. It is hard since I can't hear your voices, but we will use the comment section. If you have questions, as Hannah just said, please ask them. We're not going to stop for every question, but we will stop at various times to make sure that we are addressing the issues that you are finding important. So again, Bismarck and Hope, do you want to just sort of introduce yourself so they can hear your voice and see your face?
Do you want to go first?
Hope you can go first.
Are you sure? Okay, thank you.
Yeah, just go. Yeah.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us. My name is Hope, and I am interning here at Bangor Savings Bank, specifically in employee development. And I go to the University of Maine, where I study business administration and English.
Hi, everyone. My name is Bismarck Akoto. Thank you for joining us today for this sort of like conversations where we learn about personal brand with David, myself, and Hope. I'm currently an intern here with the Financial Wellness Department, and I school at Thomas College, where I'm moving into my senior year, and I'm very excited to share my insights with you all. Thank you.
Great. Let's get started. So, actually, Hope and Bismarck, we started the conversation around personal branding on day one of your internship. So, audience, why do you think personal brand is like a day one sort of topic at Bangor Savings Bank? And why do you think that I made it a priority for our interns? So again, would love to see some comments as to why you think branding should be number one since day one. So any comments in the section? Wow, I'm
Someone
not seeing
sees
any.
your reputation is everything.
Okay, fantastic. Great. I couldn't see that. There we go. Your reputation is everything. Thanks, Emma. Yeah, you want to really stand out from others. I mean, I think that's one of the interesting parts, right, Rebecca, is that you are all a very similar age with similar credentials. So, what is it about each of you that's going to really differentiate yourself in the marketplace and at an employer? So, I think those things are really important. Sarah, I think it's important to sort of make sure that as we're going along, you're aligned with your own values, that each of you has a unique voice, has a unique perspective, is really unique. And I think, really aligning that with your values. So again, what is personal brand? what do you think is or how would you define personal brand?
Okay, so I think I can go. So personal brand to me, it's specifically or simply said as how people actually see me when they hear of the name Bismarck, or when they see me, what do they sort of like take away from me, or what sort of like impact or impression do I leave on the people anytime they see me around, or if even if someone asks about me, or maybe David, you attend sort of like a meeting and you meet someone from Thomas College, what should the person say about Bismarck that will draw your attention to yourself, that okay, Bismarck is this type of person, or this is what he does. So that is actually what personal brand means to me. And when we want to actually go into how personal brand is, it's sort of like, what do you do, or what are some of the things that you actually do to sort of like reflect those things, or have that sort of like impact on people to know that okay, this is the mark that you've left to them, or this is sort of like the impression you've left with them. So I really take personal brand very serious, and whatever I do, I know that I leave some sort of like an impact or an impression on people wherever I go.
Great. Hope, do you want to add anything to that, or do you think you covered it?
I'll probably just add, like, I think it's more than just who you are at work, it's who you are in general. So having a consistent personal brand is very important, and it's something that I've been working on because I've kind of learned already through this internship. I can bring myself to the job, whereas before I kind of had a more archaic view of professionalism, I guess, where I thought I had to be, very serious all the time and kind of not be myself. So I think it's important to understand that brand isn't just you at work, it's you everywhere.
Yes.
Yeah, and I think what's really important, right, about personal brand is if you're not managing it, if you're not aware of it, if you're not putting that out for people to talk about, people are going to judge you, and people are going to create their own impression of who you are, right? So it's really important. I think that may have happened to some of you in high school, right? You get into a clique, you're kind of narrowly defined, and it's really important, as you go into your professional lives, that you are really kind of in control of what people say about you, how people view you. So it really does take a lot of discipline. I think it takes a lot of self-reflection about where you are right now, kind of who you want to be. I think just really working on this throughout your career is really, really important to make sure that you are the person that you want. So let's talk a little bit about this, because this to me is part of kind of where we stand. I think since you were very young, right? Since probably you were 5 years old, people have been asking you, what do you want to be when you grow up? What do you want to be when you grow up? And it's almost like the question is like, there's only one thing that you can be. I would challenge you all that you could do 100 jobs successfully. So when you're asked at a very young age, and you're asked that question throughout kind of your stage, even up to now, what are you going to be? To me, it really limits us. Then, of course, you get to go to college like you all are, and people are immediately pressuring you to pick one major as though somehow that major defines you. Major, again, is a field of study. All college students learn certain skills. They go through certain process of research writing, oral communications, and just overall knowledge growing. So the major is just a field of study. It does not define who you are. And then at work, oftentimes people are very much limited to, here's my job, here's your job description, that's who you are. So I believe we've been asking you the wrong question. I think the right question to be asking is, who are you? Who do you want to be known for? And the more you understand who you are, not only will that help you make really great decisions about careers, but it will also help you pick your partners. It will help you decide where you live. It will help you sort of decide you're going to be spending your free time, what organizations you're going to be doing charitable giving. So again, I think when we move the question from what are you going to do as a job to who are you as a person, I think that really helps us make lots of adult decisions, not just our work decision. So again, knowing that this is something that you've heard from me already, Bismarck and Hope, how has that kind of changed your thinking about you being professionals and you being strong interns? And when we sort of change the question from what are you going to do to who are you?
Hope, do you want to go?
Yeah. So one thing that I really like that you touched on, David, is how we let majors define us. And I think that kind of shapes our thinking going into career. Like, especially for me, like people are like, oh, you're studying business and English. Like, that's a weird combination. Why are you doing that? So I think people like to kind of fit you narrowly into a box, but we kind of need to push past that, especially as we're entering a professional life, because like as we've probably all seen during our internship so far, listening to people's career stories, they're in somewhere completely different than they thought they'd be, almost unrelated to their major in some instances. So I think like being open to experience rather than something that you think defines you as like, a title is a lot better. Like I've kind of just opened myself up to trying different things, and if they don't sound like me, I kind of am understanding what I like, and through that I can see, oh, maybe this is a path that I never would have considered, but through reflection I'm into it now and can look into it further.
That's so true. Adding to what Hope just said about majors, I think David, you actually drew my attention to something about majors where it's like people are more sort of like concentrated that, oh, maybe I did a major in maybe digital media and communication, so I have to do things related to that. And a lot of people have the same major, but we wouldn't have the same experiences. We wouldn't have the same perspective, or we wouldn't have the same way of approaching sort of like problems. So one thing that really makes us different is sort of like the combination of our background, our experiences, sort of like our creativity and how we connect to people. And that actually tells so much about us. So we shouldn't just let our majors define us, but we should let sort of like our experiences, our perspectives, and the way we approach problems be sort of like what actually defines us and actually shapes us. And we would use our major or whatever we learn as sort of like tools, and we'll just blend those experiences and perspective to just make us better in the society. Yeah.
Terrific. That's great. I'm trying to add the self-reflection questions that I sent to Educate Maine and sent to you, Bismarck and Hope. And for some reason, I'm not able to put those in chat. So if anyone can help me with that, that's really great. So one of the things I think is really important about really looking at who we are, we all kind of know who we are, right? Some of you have spent more time, self-reflecting than others. But I have developed kind of series of self-reflection questions to help us kind of take a look at sort of who we are and what's really important to that. So since I can't seem to be bringing anything up here, I really want to try to share. I think I'm going to share this. Can you see this PowerPoint? Are you seeing that, Bismarck?
Yes, I can see it.
You can see it. See it.
Yeah, I can see it. Yeah.
All right. So I do think that you want to make sure that you're really being curious about this. This is not simply, a 5 second exercise, a 5 minute exercise. We've been working with this since day one with our interns. We're doing a book called Strength Finders that is helping people sort of see their 5 top natural strengths. And after we discuss the book next week, we'll be doing one-on-one sessions with the interns to really sort of explore where they are in their personal brand statement. So I think this is something to take the whole summer about. So unfortunately, I can't attach the self-reflection questions right now, but I will make sure you all get them because they are important to help you with this activity. But Hope and Bismarck, do you remember any of the self-reflection questions? Which ones really sort of appealed to you? Which ones did you
Um,
think were really beneficial?
okay, I think Amy just added the self-reflection questions in the chat. So if people
Fabulous.
can
Thanks,
check,
Amy.
yeah, if people can check the chats. And I think the first question is, who do you most admire?
Right.
Which is talking
So,
about, yeah.
so is that one that you personally like, Bismarck?
Personally, I would go for what defines success for me. And
Yep.
for me, I would say what defines success for me is me being able to sort of like have impact on people and people feeling sort of like the impact I've had on them based on the things I've done. So I would even track this back to um, what I did at Thomas. So what I really wanted people to know about me was how I wanted to include everybody into everything and showing up for people and people also showing up for me. So I started doing that and I was able to sort of like have those connections with sort of like the school authorities, like the dean, and they were able to see that I really wanted to be there for people. So they made me sort of like the DER intern, the diversity, equity, and inclusion intern, to be able to sort of like create programs for people so we can sort of have that belongingness, sort of like have that inclusivity on campus. So they made me the intern and I was able to serve in that role, have sort of like panel discussions, have sort of like presentations, have some sort of like lunch and learns, just so I can be there for people. And what did this role do for me? Even after the role, I also had sort of like the opportunity to be sort of like selected by Diversity Hiring Coalition to be on a panel to sort of like represent student voice on a panel that talks about like diversity, equity, and inclusion and belonging, and share sort of like my perspective on that. So all these opportunities was like me identifying that I really want to be there for people. That is what I really look at success to be for me. And I was able to sort of like go through that channel and it has sort of like created opportunity for me. It has sort of like opened doors for me. And like I'm now like living in all those things that I'm doing. And I still want to do more and still show up for people, still want to include people, still want to champion this DEI initiative wherever I go and make sure everybody feels comfortable.
I love.
Great, thanks so much, Bismarck. Hope, was there a self-reflection question that really resonated with you?
Honestly, the first one I thought of was the same one as Bismarck, so I'll talk on that a little bit and then I can switch to another one that stood out to me. So I loved Bismarck's points and he is definitely emulating that here at Bangor Savings already, so it's amazing. Um, Yeah, I love the question, what defines success for you? Because it's so different for everybody. My original kind of perception of success was like, I'm going to be on Wall Street making all this money. You know what I mean? And as I've kind of grown and reflected on who I am, that just doesn't align with me at all. And maybe it does for some people, but I've seen for me it doesn't. And similar to Bismarck, like I like helping people. So something that really showed that to me was I interned in the writing center at my university. And it was all about, giving people voice, especially those who kind of weren't confident. So that to me is more success than, making money. And then another question that really stood out to me is what do you value? Because I think that can really inform career decisions. And kind of like David said, it does seem like we're looking at it backwards, rather than knowing what job you want to do, you should know yourself, and that's going to inform what career you choose. So I think really reflecting on your values will help to kind of direct your career path.
Yeah, I mean, I think, why I've been doing human resources for over 40 years, and I've seen so many people pick a starting point in a career, they're into it for a period of time and then discover they don't like it. And to me, it's just kind of sad that they have sort of used somebody else's definition of success. They've sort of been overly influenced by others as to what kind of pathway they should be doing instead of just spending time now as college students. Because this to me is part of being a great college student, is to be exploring all the incredible types of opportunities that are out there, to find out which jobs don't fit for you, which companies or industries fit you or don't fit you. So to me, really, college should be about this exploration of jobs and careers and professions and meeting people to try to find what journey is going to be best for you, and understanding you can always change it, but that you can easily change it when you know who you are, right? It's harder when you've been building everything upon one job or sort of one major. So the way that kind of going back, there is a personal brand statement worksheet that we will make sure that you all get. Um, and the way that we start with it is to look at these self-reflection questions and ask the question, who am I? What are you best at? What are three words that you describe yourself? How do other people describe you? And what really makes you unique and authentic. I think the really interesting part is, right, is I think we spend a lot of our adolescence fitting in. Hopefully, as you're now in college, you're seeing that, yes, you want to fit in, you want to be liked, but you're different from your friends. You're different from the people that you're working with. And so you need to really celebrate and really own your unique voice and your unique perspective. So Bismarck and Hope, a part of the reason I asked you to join me is I think both of you have a unique perspective. And I wanted you to join me because I wanted others to hear your voice and hear your perspective. So, Hope, you're on the screen right now. So, like, what does that mean to you? Having, being your authentic self and finding your, genuine voice. Like, what is that meaning for you right now?
Yeah. We've been talking about that together a lot, especially for me, because I'm kind of a random person. And I think it's like I just have all these things I do. Like I've written books, or like I've gone abroad, or like I got chickens, guys. Really like that. Like I just do all these things and I have a fun time, but people are like, wow, you're so random. And I think I used to think that was a weakness. I'm like, oh, I don't fit into one specific category. Thanks, Amy. And now I'm kind of starting to see that as a strength because it is what makes me unique. Like I like just branching out and trying different things, and kind of just honing into that is really important to me and who I am as a person.
I would add to that. I would say one thing that's really helped me everywhere I go or anywhere I find myself is trying to build that relationship with people. And I think that's really makes me who I am because I love to build relationship with people, even anywhere I find myself, even at a conference, even at school, I'd want to know everybody. So you would see me in school and like anytime we have sort of like a workshop and like we have external people come, maybe one of the professors will be, Bismarck, have you taken up your phone? I know you're going to take all of them, their LinkedIn, or maybe some people that met me at the MCC events in Bangor. You saw I was going around sort of like trying to connect with you, just wanting to stay in touch. And I think connecting with people and building sort of like relationship really defines who I am because I love to build relationships so much and I love to sort of like know people and sort of like have that tight relationship with them because I don't know where I'll be able to need them or where they'll be able to need me next. So I just love to always have that connection with people. And I think that is actually what just defines me as a person too.
Great, thanks so much. So I'm going to try to again share the PowerPoint again. I heard that it wasn't doing great. So hopefully you're now seeing the screen. So we definitely talked about success. But sort of the second question after defining who you are is what do you value? So I mean, I think this is a really good opportunity for each of you to think about like what are one or two things that you value. And again, I think using the chat, we would love to just hear some of the values of this audience. Like what are your North Stars? What really guides you as humans? So I would love for you to share that and Hope or Bismarck, if you can just read some of them off as they're posted. I'm right now only seeing the PowerPoints.
Micah says making the people around me feel heard and supported. Oh, the
Ted
chats.
says, I'm guided by a desire to improve the world around me.
Nice.
Henry says transparency.
Uh, Chloe says, main green spaces and natural species.
Kenny says empathy and ambition.
Luke says, kindness, communication, and honesty.
Sarah says supporting others, using my skills to also help others.
Let's see. Michael
So
says,
again, as you see, these are really deep feelings and deep values and really are rooted as to who you are. So again, as you really reflect on these values for yourself, it's really important to then find jobs where you're allowed to use these values on a regular basis. It's really important as you're picking employers and picking people to work with that you are finding employers and coworkers and managers who aligned with your values. When that's occurring, work is really easy when your values are not aligned with others around you or with your employer. Then it's harder to be your authentic self, right? Then you're sort of switching gears, trying to fit in, but not again being fully true to yourself. Any other thoughts around values, Bismarck or Hope? Anything else you want to share around that?
Hope, do you want to go?
I would just say one thing is, once you define your values, making sure you don't compromise on them, because I think sometimes you might see an opportunity and it mostly aligns, but if there are some things that you're a little bit skeptical about, kind of listen to yourself in that and really stay true to your values because that really does inform your identity.
I'll just pick on what Hope said, like just staying true to your value, because I've stayed true to my value of being sort of like someone who would want people to fall on and sort of someone who wants to promote sort of like inclusivity. So anything I do, I just want to diversify it so that everybody will feel sort of like included in it. So that is the value I've chosen for myself. And anything I do, I sort of have to sort of have that value incorporated in it while here or there, just so I know that these are my values. And even the slightest thing I do, my values is sort of like having sort of like a reflection on everything.
Great, thank you guys. So the next question, the kind of the third question to ask yourself is what is your superpower? What do you do better than almost anyone else? What really differentiates you from other college students, from other interns this summer? Each of you possesses a skill, a competency, a talent that is really valuable to the world. But what is that? And some of you may be very aware of what your superpower is. And if you're fully aware of it, then put it in the chat because we'd love to see what all the incredible powers are of the superheroes that are online today. And if you're still thinking about it, understand really being able to understand what you do better than almost anyone else. And I'm just going to kind of go to the next point, which is one of the things as I work with college students, I find that many college students kind of suffer from the need to be perfectionists, which I think is a really hard thing to do in the real world because we are usually given way more work than we can do in a given day. And the second thing is there's a lack of confidence. So it's going to be pretty hard to be a superhero, right? If you're not believing in yourself, because part of a really strong brand is believing that this is your brand, believing that you are really an amazing employee and really an awesome human being. And to do that, you need to believe in yourself. So this is something Hope you and I have chatted about a bit. So do you want to kind of just share, your story and kind of the role of confidence and sort of how that is important for you to truly know your authentic self and to really be able to sell a personal brand?
Yeah, absolutely. So I, like a lot of other people, have struggled with confidence. I think especially with women, it's can be even more challenging. You kind of want to be quiet. You don't really tend to speak out. I was especially like a very quiet kid in school. And I think I really started to gain confidence once I started college, when I just started doing the most random things that I was like, I'm interested in it, I might as well do it. And not, letting that voice in my head that says, you're not good enough, you shouldn't be doing this kind of take over. So, in a way, one thing that's helped my confidence, and it sounds kind of paradoxical, but it's not thinking as much. I'm like, okay, let me just do this and commit and not go in my head and dig all these reasons out why I shouldn't be doing it. And I think that also ties into something that David and I had talked about is imposter syndrome. And when he, first brought it up to me, I was like, David, I don't know if I'm good to talk about this because I have it all the time. I'm like sitting here like, I don't know what you know? And I think after we had talked about it, I thought a little bit more on it. And I think one thing that kind of helped me is like, in a way, being in a place that does kind of make you question it means you're in the right place because you're growing. If you're having these questions and like, oh, I don't know if I'm qualified, that's a good sign. And it seems like it shouldn't be, but if you really think about it, you're being challenged and you're growing every day when you're a little bit worried. And it's uncomfortable, but I think, framing it in a more positive way definitely helps. So I think just telling myself that again and again is really helped my confidence a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I think you have to put it in context, right? You're all
Yeah.
very new. This may be your first professional experience this summer as an intern. So you can't possibly know everything, right? And I think instead of saying I can't do it when I was in my early 20s, I simply said, I've never done this before, but I think I'm smart and I'm a fast learner and I'm kind of willing to try anything. So let's try it, right? And I just really reframed it from I don't know how to do it to I haven't done it, but I know I can. And I agree with you 100%, Hope. I think just keep doing it. Like, now I don't have any problem speaking in public, but when I was younger, I did. And I just kept going out there and speaking more and kind of working through my nerves and sort of my insecurity about it until it was no longer there. But there's a wide variety of techniques. So I think part of it is each person has to figure out how do you get yourself through those moments of self-doubt or those moments of imposter syndrome. But I would say every time your inner voice, your self-talk starts being negative, come right back at it with something really positive. Um, I think that's all that we kind of wanted to talk about confidence because we still want to get through some of these final questions. So I think the other thing and what you should be really exploring this summer as interns is like for some of you, again, this may be your first work experience. You're now seeing that all the great knowledge and all the great skills you've been learning in college is now really valuable to employers, right? Like we love having you on board. Like you guys are super analytical, you're collaborative, you're great solutions. You come up with great solutions. You use data really well. So there's a lot of things that you're bringing to the table, to make yourself a good employee. So again, Bismarck, what makes you a great employee? You knew you were a great student. I've been watching you be a great student for several years. So, what's making you a great employee?
I'd say what is making me currently a great sort of like employee here is my ability to be very curious and ask so many questions because I stepped into a role that I would say maybe my skills were very transferable, but I didn't really know sort of like the content of sort of like the materials or what is happening. But one thing I picked was it doesn't hurt for me to ask question if I don't know, or it doesn't hurt for me to go to my manager and say, I don't understand what she's talking about and maybe a specific slide. I just need to put my curiousness, the hat on, ask so much questions so I would have the sort of like understanding to be able to understand what she wants me to do. Then I go back, I work on it. And if I work on it and I see I still have more questions or want to have some sort of like clarification, I'm not scared to go back to her. I just take that off, go back, ask her, and that has really helped me. And we are almost 6 weeks in, and it's like I'm so confident now. I can go to whoever I want to go to get information because I'm very curious. I want to know why this is this or why that is that. So I'm able to go ask questions, sort of like just be very curious because I remember the first call we had with David and Amy, they were like, if you're coming to the internship, you have to bring your curiousness here. You have to be very curious. And when you come and you are curious, you ask so much questions, then David will always end, you need to shine your brilliance. You are very brilliant. That is why you were selected for the internship. So as far as you're asking questions, you're being very curious, you end up shining your brilliance. And I know almost every intern, wherever they are sort of like asking questions and they are also shining their brilliance because you were selected because you are very brilliant, but you need to shine them. And David always reminds us that we need to always shine our brilliance, which is one tagline that I'll take from him. Everywhere I go, I have to shine my brilliance.
Well, you're shining at Bismarck. Thank you for shining. So again, audience, like what makes you a great employee? I do agree with Bismarck. I think curiosity is one of the strengths that you all have as young professionals because you're college students. You're in this moment of, learning and being, learning all this new stuff. And that to me is something that actually gives you an advantage over people who are not in kind of that learning student mode. So that's something that I think you all can really bring, but it's not just asking a question. It's about being ferociously curious, right? Asking 10 questions, right? That to me is how that becomes, not just something, but becomes a real superpower. So what makes you a great employee, audience? Like, I want to see some words in the comments. I can't see the words in comments, but hope if you can read some of them, that would be really great.
Brenda says
Someone says
coachability. Oh, sorry.
coachability. Oh, you're good.
Emma says always wanting to do more and taking on more.
Love it, Emma. Great one.
Anna says if our team doesn't know the answer, I find out the person we can ask or how we can do it.
Yeah, like that's one of the biggest learnings, Anna, and for all of you is knowing your resources, identifying key folks. Our with our management trainees who are recent college grads, we actually do something called the top 100, which is about finding the 100 people in the bank who can answer any question ever asked of them. And some of our interns have sort of started at their top 50 who are 50 people they need to know in the organization to help them get their projects done, to be able to answer questions that are needed. So, knowing your resources and developing relationships with key people in your organizations is so important and does make you a great employee because not everyone is doing that. Any other things that came up in the comments?
Samira
Um,
says always being open to constructive criticism and wanting to be the best version of you.
Yeah, I would sort of just reframe that a little bit is coaching. I think being coachable is another huge factor. So many employees have difficulty even receiving compliments or developmental feedback. So I think being individuals who can really take feedback and really learn from it, really grow from it, is truly a superpower. And I feel like you all are in a really great position. You've also been going through a lot of change really throughout your lifetime. So I would also say being adaptable and agile is a really critical thing. Being able to switch gears very quickly, which most of you do, are really important to employees. And I would say the one thing to really kind of focus on is how to be resilient. So if you get rejected on something, if somebody says no to you, how do you not take that as a loss, but sort of come back with something better? Right. So again, resilience to me is making sure that you don't give up and making sure that when you have a roadblock or you get a no, that you sort of listen, you sort of think about it, and then you come back stronger and better. So I think that is what employers are looking for. So just keep thinking about, again, what makes you a good employee, because that's really what you should be putting on your resume. That's how you should be answering interview questions when you're getting them, is why would you be a great employee? That is what employers are really looking for. All right. So then I think the next question that I think is really important to me, because I'm a person that's very motivated by impact, impacting others, people, and really impacting, I call it, making the world a better place, but it's really about making my community, and my community is predominantly the state of Maine. So I feel like I do a lot of impact, positive impact on the state of Maine. So I really love this this sort of purpose Venn diagram that I have up on the screen, which just really looks at what do you love, what are your strengths, how can you get paid, and what does the world need? Like what's missing right now in your organization, what's missing in your town or city in which you live, what is the world sort of missing right now? I think when you can combine all of these things into one, you can find a purpose. And this is to me how we can have unique impact on the world. So again, Bismarck, you've shared a little bit about just some of the impact that you have had, at Thomas College and being super inclusive and creating sense of belonging. Hope or Bismarck, do you have a vision for how you can make your communities a better place or how you can make the world a better place? Like, what are you thinking about that you could do to have a positive impact on the world?
All right, I think I'll take it. And I think one thing I believe or my baseline is how do we care for people? How do we show up for people? And how do we make sure people feel that they belong in whether a team, whether in our community or whether our society? And I'll sort of like reinstate what I sort of like did at Thomas. Like I got to Thomas and I was like, how can I like make sure everybody feels sort of like connected? Because I go there as an international student myself, and the international club wasn't sort of like really functioning. I was like, I took it upon myself and I was like, okay, how can I bring the international students together? So we sort of like put events and activities together. And in doing so, like I started doing sort of like activities to bring people together. And in that limelight too, I was also sort of like selected to be the DI intern, where I also had to create sort of like similar programs based on what I was doing for the international clubs, just to sort of like make sure everybody feels included, everybody feels part of the community. That is basically what we are here on earth for as humans, to sort of like care for each other, to sort of like show up for each other, to sort of like make sure everybody is included in everything. Because if we live in a world where we don't really include people in what we do, it's not sort of going to be sort of like a perfect world for us. Everything is not going to work. Even at our workplaces, we do some sort of like connect to make sure we are in touch with everybody. We sort of like have what is going on in people's life, just so we would enjoy sort of like our life and sort of like make sure everybody is sort of like connected in one way or the other. So that sense of belonging, and that has actually, even with just what I've been doing at Thomas, gave me sort of like a bigger platform to be on sort of like a state sort of like diversity hiring coalition board, to sort of like speak at events on just some DEI initiative that I have led as student. And even now I serve as sort of like a student representative on the board for diversity hiring coalition, which is sort of like the little things I was doing, which maybe I might have overlooked, like people are watching, and it sort of like ended me up on being part of like board of directors for sort of like diversity hiring coalition, and sort of being that trajectory, just showing up for people and making sure people feel connected.
As you can see, Bismarck is very passionate about having positive impact on the world around him. So kudos to you, Bismarck. That's really good. I'm going to move to the final question in terms of putting together your personal brand statement. So what will be your legacy? So, I mean, here you're still a college student, Hope. Like you haven't even graduated, and I'm already asking you, like, what do you want your legacy to be 40 years from now when you are retiring? So why do you think this question is important to think about? Maybe not to have an answer to, but why do you think this is an important question as you're kind of putting together a personal brand statement?
Yeah, I think it's important because it kind of helps inform our decisions that we make about our brand and about our future. So if you know, like at the end of your career, what you want to have done, you're going to be working toward that every day. So it could be, like a specific accomplishment, but I think for most of us, and especially like seeing what was in the chat, it's more about who we were than what we did. So I think just showing up in a way that's authentic and consistent and helping people, like Bismarck said, in every way we can. That's just why it's so important to consider legacy, because it is all we have, at the end. So it's very important.
Yeah, I'm going to be retiring next year, and no one is
Mhm.
going to talk about my jobs or
Right.
my titles or how long I stayed with certain companies. Even how much I'm made, but they will remember interactions with me, and they will remember their experiences with me. And as a human resource person, my kind of focus from the very beginning, even in my mid 20s, was how do I create workplaces where people can be their best, and how do we create support for each employee to kind of reach their optimal potential. So I think I saw that vision, like that was kind of what I could do as a human resource professional, and that I think has really kind of paved kind of my entire sort of way. So where do we go from here? Again, you definitely need this worksheet that we've just gone through with you, and we'll make sure that you get that. Once you've done the worksheet, I think there's several things you want to do. You want to actually write down a written brand statement. I think it's really important to write it down because you'll have it as a record and you can kind of keep using it as your North Star. We're also really asking people, once they've established a personal brand, to incorporate it into their LinkedIn profile, really making it part of their headline so that when employers and others are looking at them on LinkedIn, they will get a really good understanding of who each person is. And then, of course, you want to take your brand and you want to be able to convert it into a 30 or 40-second sort of elevator pitch on yourself. So I've been seeing a lot of you at networking events over the past few weeks. And some of you are doing an incredible job of introducing yourself, telling me who you are. But each person needs to just feel comfortable about sharing who they are. And people are going to be interested in you if you just tell your full story. So I did just want to spend a minute on a personal brand statement. This will be on the worksheet that you will receive from us. But this is kind of how you set it up. There's not a perfect way. You could probably look it up online and find 50 different ways of doing a personal brand statement. But I kind of like the simple format. I am, who are you? I'm guided by what values. I use my superpowers to value or contribute to something larger. I'm known for your employee strengths. My purpose is to impact the world, and I hope my legacy will be. So it's a very simple sort of, I think, format for you to create a personal brand statement by the end of the summer. So just kind of listen to kind of what mine might be in this case. So I'm David. I'm a strength based people leader guided by integrity, curiosity, and kindness. I use my ability to see potential in others to help people and organizations grow. I'm known for building trust, relationships, developing talent, and creating meaningful connections throughout the state of Maine. My purpose is to help people discover their gifts and make a positive difference in the world. I hope my legacy is that others felt more confident, more capable, and more valued because of when our paths crossed. So that's kind of an example of what a personal brand statement might be. And I think if you can develop this by the end of the summer and really go back to college with a clear view of who you are and what you want your personal brand statement to be, I feel, I really feel that you're going to be so much more advanced than by not having it. So I think we've stopped sharing. So, I mean, we have a few minutes left. We have about only 10 minutes left. Sorry it took us so long to get through that message. But what questions does the audience have? What do you want us to talk about that we have not yet covered? Is everyone a little clearer about what a personal brand is and why it's important for you to sort of define yourself so that others don't define you? What have been some of the key learnings that you've taken away today? Anyone want to write those in the comment section? Yeah, Emma, that's a really good question. What's most damaging to a personal brand? Hope, what do you think? What's most damaging to a personal brand?
I would say one thing that we've talked about a lot is inconsistency. So when you're showing up as different people, nobody's ever going to know who you are, what your brand is. So I think, in short, mixed messaging.
Yeah, I mean, I do think you need to be consistent, right? If you're one day really happy, the next day you're really upset. I mean, it's going to be really hard for people to understand you. So I do think part of this is consistent in your voice, in your actions, your words. Everything needs to kind of be aligned. So I think inconsistency or not being fully aligned is definitely damaging to your personal brand. Bismarck, other thoughts?
I'll just say you being very sort of like able to work with other people and communicate effectively. And with regards to that, you shouldn't like talk anyhow, and you sort of like portray yourself like with what Hope says. Maybe you talk anyhow, you don't talk professionally, as people would say. You just have to know where and when to say whatever you have to say.
Great. Yeah, the only other thing I would say is that your brand is sort of your promise to other people. So I think if you don't fulfill your promise, if Bismarck believe, because I keep telling him to shine his brilliance and then I don't give him any opportunities, right, to shine his brilliance, and he's going to say, dude, you're not, you're just saying it. It's just words. Like you're not really keeping your promise of what you're saying, you're going to do for me. Right. So it's really important, I believe, to just keep your promise. Angelina has a great question. How do you promote your soft skills versus hard skills? Yeah, this is a really interesting thing. And to be honest with you, I still hear employers will talk about it as soft skills. I don't think what we know as soft skills, communication skills, critical thinking, collaboration, agility, those are not soft skills. Those are essential work skills. Technical skills to me are your technical expertise. So you've been training to be a teacher. You're an engineer. You have analytical skills or financial skills because you're a finance major, right? Those are technical skills. But those other skills that you bring, that's what your brand is, and they to me are more valuable than your technical skills. I can teach people technical skills. And we do. We teach most of the people coming into the bank technical skills, but I can't teach you to have integrity, and I can't teach you to be kind, and I can't teach you to just be motivated to do great work for your coworkers and your customers. So these skills, these essential work skills, or we can call them soft skills if you want, those to me is what makes a good employee a great employee. All right. Chloe's asking, if you're part of various groups, clubs, volunteering committees, how do you incorporate these different aspects into your personal brand? I love those. I love that question. So, yeah, Chloe, I mean, I think there's a lot of different ways to look at that. One is just that you are somebody who likes to be part of groups, but along with being a joiner and being a leader in those groups, like what are you giving to those groups? What are the people in the very committees, clubs, volunteer work? What do they say about you? And hopefully they're saying the same thing, whether you're at a school club, you're doing a community volunteer project, or you're very involved, in a committee, in your community. I'm hoping that people are saying the same things about you. And why is this important to you, right? So part of what I'm looking for when people are so involved, I want to know why they want to be involved. And that generally will say to me, they will always be involved, but it's not guaranteed. So I think, why do you get involved? How does that affect your brand of being, again, a joiner, a leader? And again, what is everyone sort of saying about you after each one of these things? And the more consistent you're hearing from people, that to me helps you define your brand. Henry is asking, if there is there a time when you have a difference in values with someone in the workplace? If so, how did you work it through? Bismarck or Hope, did you ever have any disagreements yet?
No, no one that I can think of now.
Yeah, I mean, I've had value disagreements. Yeah, I mean, this one's a real hard one because sometimes it's a very simple, values disagreement, and sometimes you can find a compromise. You're not 100% honest to your values, but I feel like if I can compromise a little, so everyone's getting along or that things are working in organizations, it's really good. But I think probably the reason I've left most of my jobs have been because it became very clear to me that my values no longer aligned with the organization. So I really believe that part of this is we as employees need to understand when our values are no longer aligned with the organization. And so, that is important. And a lot of times we can work it through. A lot of times we can find, some sort of compromise or negotiation. Other times, if an organization is going in a very different direction or a person is going in a very different direction, I usually will move on from that. And how do you most effectively leverage your professional network after you've established it? Fantastic, Lily. That's really great. It just takes constant work, right? Like you guys have been meeting people through these networking activities, and that's great. But that's the easy part. The easy part is just sending a LinkedIn to somebody saying, "Hey, I met you. Now, how do you keep top of mind?" You don't need to talk to people every day, but I've known Bismarck for years. Like Bismarck and I have known each other for years. I've been trying to get him to be an intern. I had to be very persuasive for him to finally come. But like Bismarck and I, like when I was on campus, at Thomas, he would usually come. We would get a selfie. He and I would have like shared interest in diversity and in inclusion. So if he saw something really interesting, he would share that with me. Or if I heard about something, I would share it with him. So I think the network is about just continuing to stay in touch with people, finding those natural interests that you all have and just kind of keeping in the loop. So don't only just put somebody on LinkedIn, but start getting to know them and understanding, oh, I read this really cool article. Let me send it to David because I know he's really interested in this topic. So it looks like we're running out of time, guys. I do apologize that we didn't get these self-reflection questions and this personal brand statement worksheet. That was not part of the presentation, but it is what you need to do this work. So I will ensure that Educate Maine, or you guys can contact me directly. I'm just at david.pease@bangor.com. If you want, I can't even type. So again, it's david.pease, P-E-A-S-E, @bangor, BANGOR.com. That's my email. Hope you have Hope's name, you have Bismarck's name. So connect with us on LinkedIn and make sure that you get the self-reflection questions. Make sure you get the worksheet. And if you want a copy of the PowerPoint, you're entitled to that as well. So thank you guys so much. Bismarck, Hope, you did shine your brilliance. Thank you so much for sharing your authentic voice and yourself with the audience.
Thank you so much, David, Hope, and Bismarck. This was a really great conversation. To reiterate, yes, we will ensure that all of the follow-up materials that David mentioned will be sent to you out so that you have all of the information. And please reach out to David, Bismarck, or Hope if you have follow-up questions. Thanks again for joining us for today's great conversation, and we hope to see you all soon. Bye.
Thanks so much, Hannah. Bye-bye.
Bye.